Previously in X-Men, the Dark Phoenix saga has ended. Days of Future Past is past.
You're on mute again. You just muted yourself. What do you keep touching?
I'm hitting something on the keyboard with my elbow. I don't even know. You know, it's the cuffs in my Leafs jersey.
There you go. Oh, you did it again.
I didn't even touch anything this time. This is amateur hour.
You were saying that Days of Future Past are no longer Days of Future Past because they never happened because they won.
They did. And then we had a one-shot issue, a horror comic, essentially, with Kitty Pryde on a solo adventure as misfortune comes her way in the X-Mansion. And misfortune comes our way as readers as John Byrne leaves the series, Uncanny X-Men, along with our favorite inker ever, maybe, Terry Austin.
Are they?
And what we're left with now is that Chris Claremont is fully ensconced in the X-Men franchise. He is going to steer this ship for the rest of the great run for another decade. And he will pair up with other artists. Some are good, some are great, but I don't know if there's ever going to be a partner in terms of creativity that steers the ship of the X-Men to such heights as as you throw up, such heights as Claremont and Byrne as some kind of tandem. So we will see. What we've got today, of course, is episode 53 of our never-ending Tuesday night X-Men read-through live stream.
Year 2.
We
did. This is episode 53, people. This is officially year 2. Oh, and you're on mute again. I got to take the shirt off, man. I got to jersey you.
There might be a plug issue here, but I'm looking. Anyway, episode 54, issue 144 of Uncanny X-Men.
Yes.
And that makes me Jason Lapidus.
And I suppose year 2, this makes me Chris Sanagan. Hey, everybody. How you doing?
And that makes us Group of 7 Comics. We make comics together. We talk about comics together. Sometimes we read comics together, but not really together. We just read the same comics. And this happens to be one of those times. Jason Lowe says, "To me, my ex-friends," as he touches his temple and focuses so that we all are summoned by him. Hello, Jason. How are you? We miss you. Hope you're well.
We miss you.
We do. I'm glad I'm glad, Jason, that you post on social media as frequently as you do, because it maintains the illusion that I kind of feel like I know what you're up to, which is not really true. That's why it's an illusion. But it's nice sometimes to have access to people's posts and see what they're doing, and you're always doing such neat stuff and sharing your X-Men and other. So it's super cool. Chris, how are you reading issue 144 of Uncanny X-Men?
I'm reading it on a dead media known as DVD-ROM.
Well,
it's really cool. It's the scans of the original comics. No touch-ups, no anything. Just these scans, PDF. You get to see the staples. You see it, we broadcast it, you share it. It
is really cool.
Things are muddy. Anyway, that's what I'm reading. How are you reading it? You're reading it on your head.
Most people don't get to read it the way you're talking about, where you get the clarity of a screen, but you get the scan of the original issue, which is pretty special. I got to tell you, that format got huge shout-outs on Kayfabe this week.
Really?
Yeah, Jim Rugg and Ed were talking about it, and they were talking about how in the early 2000s that Marvel put out a bunch of those DVD-ROMs, and how they are basically explain what they are, which is what we know that they are, and how it was a really great format, and that everyone should try and track those down. So,
because I believe the box it's upstairs. I think it's 2005, 2006. I think it's around there.
Right around there. Jason says, "Always love listening to you guys talk X-Men as I make some comics."
Nice.
I
believe you're drawing hunks, Jason. I believe you. Last I checked on the Instagram, you were back to drawing hunks. back to drawing comics, which means you've been doing it.
As much as I love talking X-Men, I would rather be drawing comics and listen to someone else talk X-Men, which I do the rest of the day. So that's all good. David Cutler, Godspeed, my ex-acquaintances. Hope you're well too. So I'm reading it here in the Essential X-Men Volume 2. This is the last issue in this sacred tome that was gifted to me by a noble friend. So I'm sad to put this one behind me after today. And, after, I think I mentioned this last time, after the issue, there are those profiles.
Oh, yes. I love those profiles.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. But since we got David in the house, I got to say, I was at the comic store trying to secure more comics for our show.
That's why you go to the comic store.
They had this. Shouts to Anthony at Planet X in Richmond Hill. He brought a stack. He was down at the Beaches store, and he brought like a stack of this era X-Men up to Richmond Hill to tempt me. And tonight's issue was there for like $50. I was like, yeah.
Issue 144. This issue was like selling for $50.
Yeah, I think that was what the price was.
Okay, right. So we're gonna get into the quality of this issue, but
again, shouts to Anthony, who does not price the issues. He is
fair enough
an employee, and I think there's like a mandate on how pricing goes. He's a solid guy. Listens to our show, by the way.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's very sweet. Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, he's great. It's
$50, Anthony.
One of the reasons for sure that I go back to Planet X is because the staff has always been fantastic.
Gotcha.
Trevor 16 Shooter. Hello, gentlemen, he says. Nice to see you here, Trevor. Glad you're with us, and I hope you're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
David says, I picked up the next issue, 145 from the Snail this week for $8.
Ooh.
But it's definitely a reader copy.
Sure.
Yeah, they had that one too. That's the one. I don't want to spoil ahead, but it's a Dave Cockrum with Dr. Doom on the cover, is it not?
I don't know. I'm excited. I don't know.
We haven't faced Doom yet, but I've got that one. Looked pretty good in the bag and board, but when I got it out, $8 made a lot more sense.
Nice.
Still cool to have. Still cool to have.
I gotta say, I was gonna say, definitely. I would show that. I'm saying, but I was gonna say, going through these with doing this series with you, I am tempted. I am excited when I come across some cheaper versions, like $8 works for me. Pick up some of these things, and I have the artifact to go along with what we're talking about. So
definitely
love that.
Fantastic Doom Cockrum cover. Yeah. So speaking
of, what do you got there?
I finally found it there at my store. I remember
$50.
It is X-Men and Moon Girl #1 with, I always wanted to say this, friend of the show, David Cutler as one of the two artists on the interiors, or the pencilers, I should say. And it's super cool to see more of your work, man. And to try and, because there were two people, and I'm learning your style and learning to decode you, and see how you build your figures and see how you paste your panels and all that fun stuff. So it's such a pleasure to look through. I just picked it up a couple hours ago, and I'm looking forward to diving into that. And
congratulations!
So I'm always happy to find more David Cutler comics and more Jason Lowe comics. Those are it's such a treat. So yeah, I'm a fan. It's all good. Oh yes, Moon Girl and the X-Men. Looking forward to it. So here we are diving into the first issue of the post-Byrne Austin era. My first thought when I was reading it was that this is one of those fill-in issues that we came across before, right? Ooh, show the double page spread. Okay. All right. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I gotta first find the double page spread. Ooh, this is beautiful. I gotta say, it's right where it should be. Look at that. It's right in the middle, bro.
Yeah.
Easy to get behind that. Awesome.
Gotta admit, it's a fun. I know you're gonna read it, but I do like the Havoc Wolverine Moon Girl team up. It's a fun group of characters.
Totally. Still, Havoc is so weird.
He is like, but interesting. Makes me want there hasn't been like a Havoc solo run, was there at some point?
I'm sure.
Maybe. Okay.
Thanks, David. You guys are such intellectuals about the comic book nuts and bolts. Thanks, man. 2/3 in. It's on the staples, bro. On the staples. There you go. You're welcome. You're welcome. Very cool. So, other X fans, check it out. Check out friend of the show, David Cutler's awesome pencils in there. Very exciting. I'm looking forward to diving into that one later. But back to this. I thought it was first read was like the same way with issue. I think it was 110 and maybe even 107.
Yeah.
Right when things are heating up with the Emkron Crystal whole like fiasco with the end of the universe. There's like all of a sudden they just dip away for an issue for a fill-in.
Oh yeah.
It was so weird.
Was that the one, the Danger Room one?
There were two in that time period, and I've already forgotten which one was the Danger Room. I think the issue 110 was the Danger Room one with that Warhawk.
Yes, Warhawk. I was gonna say that guy.
Yeah.
Warhawk.
When it was like the first time they ever played baseball. Which is like a tradition, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, this feels like one of those issues where there's continuity and then there's a step away.
Well, you know, it's interesting because to like set it up in terms of just like setting the scene. You know, we have this run comes to an end as a creative partnership too. Clearly, you know, they've been through some unbelievable story creation highs with, you know, I mean, we're looking back on it, obviously, you know, 30, 40 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we're aware of impact in a different way. But at the time, I imagine working so close and having, and you keep mentioning it's like the best-selling book at the time becomes the best-selling book.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, there's going to be a natural break and you know, I mean, there's going to be the next issue that comes out, like the next thing that's not them. So it does definitely feel, you know, how we're so used to this like 10 issues ahead. We're going to put characters and sprinkle plot and, you know, story device and motivation. And then this just kind of comes and you realize, oh yeah, this feels like one of those like kind of throw-in issues or, well, what guys, it's the next story. Well, John's leaving to do Fantastic Four. So what are we going to do? Well, I have this other thing in mind, maybe. But in the meantime, there's another story. Why don't we just kind of pop it in there for 144? It feels very, you know, I mean, the character of Lee and Cyclops, they were introduced to, as a you know, characters in terms of like their storyline in 143 when Scott calls the mansion.
Right.
Because he misses the team and he calls the mansion and you know, and Kitty's there. So they continue with that. They pick that little tangent up. But I mean, really, again, the guest stars, the characters that show up in this book, the villainy is straight out of nowhere.
Right. It doesn't match the brand of the series.
Not at all.
But I guess we can dive into it and talk about it as sort of as it comes across. But well, I guess we'll start there. So I'm going to add this to the stream. Here we get a cover by Brent Anderson, you know, Cry Despair, which is how I would say the character's name just based on the regular word.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's not it's despair. It's not
right.
Despiry.
Right. And again, like I just don't have a strong reaction. It's just strange, you know, and I think it says guest starring the macabre man thing. I think that is a fair word here for it. I mean, it's just an odd issue. It just doesn't fit. When I pick up an X-Men comic, this is not what I'm expecting, nor what it's not the reason I pick up X-Men.
Although Man Thing, you know, is now we've been treated to Man Thing in the MCU.
Yes, star of the MCU.
New star of the MCU, Man Thing, aka Ted.
Breakout character in the MCU. So for those who have not yet seen, and we're spoiling, of course, for those who have not yet seen Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus, Man Thing, the character, in practical effects glory, makes a significant appearance in the show. And obviously there will be moments where it's heavier towards the digital, but there are practical effects of Man-Thing, which I don't think any of us thought we'd see in the foreseeable future. But what a gift!
Absolutely.
David says, after Werewolf by Night, I can only see Man-Thing as adorable.
It's those eyes.
It is those eyes. I still don't really understand the design of the character's face.
Right. Like the tusk almost. No, sorry, not a tusk as much as a snout.
It is really strange, especially the fact that Man-Thing and Swamp Thing come out at the same time by guys who I think were roommates. Like it's one of those stories. Check out the episode on comic tropes by Chris Pierce. He talks about which one came first, and their origins are they're really, really closely tied. And it kind of doesn't matter just because the characters are different in the way they play out. But these two giant green swamp monsters with the name Thing, in their name, are just really weird. But Swamp Thing, he's more anthropomorphic, and I can see the expressions and connect to him a little bit. This one, just these round eyes. It is like David says, it's just he's adorable in a weird way.
It's like a Beanie Baby.
He's something. Eyes. So do you know Despair at all?
So this is what I know about Despair. He showed up in a recent line of Marvel Legends.
There you go. And
I believe it was really the Doctor Strange.
Right. The figure is really good for what he is.
Sure.
Like if someone is a fan of Doctor Strange villains or these kinds of supernatural villains, like it's a cool figure. It's very, very, very low down on my list of desirable villains to collect. But there is a fantastic Michael Golden issue of Doctor Strange where Despair, spoilers from 1980, Despair is the villain in that one as well. And this takes us into this issue. And again, I don't mean to directly just spoil what's going to happen, but we've talked about this before from a writer point of view, and we need to think often, I think, as writers when we read these, because Claremont is the force now, the sole kind of proprietor of the series or custodian of the series for the time being. The antagonists are there to challenge your protagonist and to reveal aspects and truths about your protagonist. And so this villain plays in the realm of the abstract, the ethereal, the nightmare,
sure,
and the emotional. And he can pull things out of your hero that a character like, say, Magneto or the Sentinels cannot do. So, for those like deep dives into a character's psyche, characters like Despair they have a function. And I don't know if that's what Claremont was thinking about when he put this issue together or led this issue's production in some way. But I definitely do see the value of testing a hero in unconventional and unconventional ways that don't necessarily add to continuity.
Yeah.
It's like not part of the larger narrative, but it reveals parts of Cyclops that other characters would not be able to do. I don't know.
I also find it interesting that, like Cyclops, it's a Cyclops standalone story ostensibly. And yet with the new X-Men and Cyclops was there, to be that bridge between the old team and the new team. And they could have just as easily just kind of left Cyclops alone. Like but there's something about his character. I know we joke a lot about Cyclops, but there's something about his character. There's something about his connection to the overall X verse and the family within that it's created of those characters that they just can't let him go. Right. Like like it would have been easy even at he's walked away 3 times during this run, during this year he's almost like Sunfire that way. Sunfire keeps walking away. No, he's not like Sunfire. What a jerk. But Cyclops, no, it's interesting. Like, they could just easily move on without a Cyclops in an X-verse. It could happen. But there's something about the character that they keep bringing back as a linchpin to something with that family of characters.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
I hear you.
It's interesting because they could just leave him.
Yep.
On his boat, he could be shrimping down Louisiana.
Right. All right, let's dive into this one. So Brent Anderson is and it says plain as day, he is the guest penciler. So
Yes.
it's not like this issue was intended to be the start of a run or anything like that. This was supposed to be a one shot. Joseph Rubenstein is going to be on the series for a little while, and I'm familiar.
Joe Rubenstein, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same guy, Joseph or Joe, right? I'm familiar with Rubenstein more than I am Anderson because of Rubenstein's work on the original Marvel Universe. I think he inked or even drew and inked a lot of those covers. And of course, he inks the famous Wolverine limited series over Frank Miller's pencils. And that is a mismatch as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. But I see a lot of Claremont with Rubenstein, as an inker. So he's probably one of those bullpen guys, and he's great with a brush and good with a pen and gets his job done. He renders in a way that I find not interesting for my taste. And I've never been a fan of his inks. Even as a child, I didn't really love what he was doing, but he's very good. Just not my cup of tea. And in terms of Brent Anderson, like we're going to see a lot of work that looks heavily influenced by like the Neil Adams, leaning more towards photorealism as opposed to abstraction. Like not trying to create a cartoon, but trying to illustrate. Does that make sense? More illustrative and, not that comics are ever going to get at this age going to be photorealistic, but he's leaning in that direction sort of from that Neil Adams school, but he's obviously not coming close. I mean, Neil Adams innovates in so many ways, but where Brent Anderson here, he'll do things pretty much by the book. He seems on brand.
Yeah, and I'd say that even just having not, to my understanding or knowledge, been exposed to much Brent Anderson work, I no problems with it whatsoever. It fits very seamlessly into. I mean, we're not talking about John Byrne, but certainly it fits very much on brand with these types of stories. Yeah.
So what we get here is a man named Jock, which for me as a Canadian boy always seemed kind of funny whenever there were characters named Jock. Only did I realize later as an adult that it's Jacques, it's Jack. It's the same kind of name, just with a different flavor, right? It's the different accent on it. But yeah, I didn't understand, especially in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he swings onto the airplane.
Yeah.
The pilot's name, I think, is Jock.
Okay.
And I never could catch, was he saying Jacques? I was like, does that guy have an accent? I could never figure it out, but now I think his name is Jock as well. Right. Anyway, we see right away that this man, Jock Forrester, could this be a connection to Lee Forrester, the woman we met in the last issue? And this guy has a cancer diagnosis. He's going to die, and he's come here to kill himself in the swamp.
The swamp that he's known and loved since childhood.
Dude, is that a thing?
Are you telling me that you don't have a favorite childhood swamp?
So, I'm a suburban kid that had access to things like fields and ravines and forests. But
not swamps or bayous or gullies.
No, I didn't have access to those things. And they seem to me more like places I would want to avoid because of, bugs and snakes.
Yeah, like...
And
like typhoid. And, yeah.
So I don't have a connection to it, so I'm just going to trust Chris Claremont. And this doesn't look very swampy to me, though.
There's some ferns in there.
Anyway, other things of note: Glynis Wein is still on colors, right? And Tom Orzechowski on letters. And Orzechowski is just just so you know, he's like regarded as one of the finest letterers, of his time. People love Orzechowski's hand. And of course, Louise Jones, also known as Louise Simonson, as editor of the series, and will be until we die,
Right.
which is great. All right.
All right.
So as he's, saying goodbye to his wife, he's feeling all sorts of emotions, and Man-Thing is an empath.
Right.
So he feels people's feelings.
He feels the feelings. He feels the feels.
He does. And he's approaching this guy simultaneously as this black, smoky, inky being is also going towards him. And by the way, great drawings of this revolver. Like, those are really, really good. Nice photo reference stuff. And that's basically what happens. The guy blows his brains out. This is a comic for children. Yeah. Jock blows his brains out, and I guess that enables despair to be conjured completely. And
not quite sure what the origin of Despair's power sets are, aside from being demonic.
Right.
And like what, right. And like why, I mean, I guess he is attracted by people's despair.
Right.
And that's right.
A person's like worst moments, emotionally. And
then becomes that voice on his shoulder to do it. Right.
Sure. So it happens, and Man-Thing is it comes to attack him.
Yeah.
And this drawing, by the way, like the introduction panel of Despair is cool. The second one looks like a dude in a Halloween costume.
For sure. Which panel stood out for me though is in the top of page 3, the one where he has the side profile of the gun on his head. He says Lee I. I feel like face looks really good.
Yeah.
Half of that face looks really good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I like the way that they avoid showing this guy blowing his brains out. But, wow. It reads really, really well.
Yeah.
And you get like this use of panels without gutters.
Mm-hmm.
And which is a tricky thing to attempt unless you're really bad at it. Like, look at how... So we have across the top on page 3... 6 panels, no gutter. So you have to think like just in the black and white line art, you have to think about positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, so that there's no way that the reader could move from one panel to the other thinking it's one image. You have to break up those images by changing where things are white to where they are black. And it's really effective in the first 2 panels. Like, you cannot mix those.
Yeah.
Right? You see his hand in his shirt, but beside it on the other panel is just pure black. And then above, where it's fading to black because of the screen tone that's applied, beside it is the yellow light coming down. So it's pure white on the page. And it's this approach almost all the way through where it alternates to make it incredibly clear. And a lesser artist would have messed this up. And also the coloring does a really good job, like throwing that blue in the middle with the purple in panel 3, like just again adds that clarity that this reads clear when it could have been a real mess. So kudos.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Halloween costume too. I mean, if you're going to be a demon who's been energized by this human's decision, then suddenly it looks like you're wearing gloves and you've got a cape.
Yeah, maybe don't show the feet. Maybe like have the smoke. Or
like maybe have like the panel beside on the left, right? Yeah,
The first thing I thought when I actually saw that drawing was like I saw it and I thought, oh, it looks like I drew that. Like one of my bad figures. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can see I drew that. It's not a good sign. Not a good sign.
All right, here we go. Yeah, you see how in this first panel, it's not a glove; it's like kind of blended into his body,
right?
Which is a little more. Although then he strikes a villain pose in panel 2. So
totally.
Yeah.
So, one of Ted Man-Thing's powers is that when a person feels fear,
Yeah.
they burn. Like he can burn them with their fear.
Okay.
And so
is that what
despair deflects this, like makes Man-Thing feel afraid. And so Man-Thing is burning.
Because that, I mean, again, Werewolf by Night, we see some of that.
Right.
And so I didn't know if he just had like firepower, but no, people can feel their fear and then basically turn to ash.
Well, when he touches them. So this is what despair says. He says, whatever knows fear burns at the touch, burns at Man-Thing's touch. Right. And despair can make you feel absolute terror. So because Man-Thing is touching himself, not in any kind of terrible way, but just
that explains
his own existence. He catches fire.
Okay, all right.
And then he's going to burn alive, and then of course despair thrives more on the pain. And here we get this drawing of his face. Like, dude, don't make his face look like a person in makeup.
Yeah,
it should be more skull-like, which it is in the Marvel Legends figure. And
yes, you're right.
When Michael Golden expertly draws him in that issue of Doctor Strange, he also looks that way. So he looks more like a skeleton.
And is he? Would we say he is a Doctor Strange antagonist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, demons are right up his alley.
Sure.
So he takes the form of Jock after Jock's death.
That's right.
And the transformation also could be more interesting. Looks like just two drawings kind of overlapping each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the most interesting way to show that. But then we cut away to a fishing boat on the Gulf side of Florida, and Cyclops is knee deep in fish and staring deeply into the eyes of a pretty lady.
Smelling real good, I bet, too.
Smelling beautiful, and he's attracted to her, and she's openly attracted to him. She doesn't hide it very well, and at least the way they write her. I can smell those fish. Yeah.
What do they smell like, Jason?
Fishy. Move on.
Fishy.
And we get, a pretty easily diffused scene.
Yeah.
Where this guy on the boat, Paolo, wants to touch Cyclops' glasses because they look different. And Cyclops doesn't dodge. He just gets a little bit too aggressive and pushes the guy's arm away instead of just maybe stepping backward, and it turns into fisticuffs. Look at these guys. Put up your dukes. And then, luckily they de-escalate pretty quickly and shake and move on. Cyclops, of course, does not want to take his glasses off because, as all of you know out there, his optic blasts will be out of his control once his glasses are removed.
Because, as we
all
know,
that stands between...
He will blow a hole in the head of Paolo.
Yes. And Captain Lee Forrester's like, yeah, we're all going to go for dinner. Let's go. So they go out, and he decides to still wear that hat.
Yeah. He still smell like his clothes still smell like fish. He's like, let's go.
Yeah. So he's having a pint and writing letters. Or is he reading letters?
He's reading letters from home.
Right. Because, that's where his mind is, which is fine.
Yeah.
And then that takes us back to the mansion. And I don't understand why they don't color this panel.
Right.
That is odd. So, we can look at color as another way to tell the story, right? So we make color choices as a way to indicate things and to, maybe for transition or whatever it might be. But this one does not tell any kind of story. It doesn't help in the storytelling in any way. It doesn't clearly establish a new location. I mean, the restaurant, okay, it is reds and browns. And he's wearing blue, and then it transitions to a completely blue room, which doesn't hold. Like the next panel, it's green. But I don't get it. Is this an error? I don't understand why they don't do a little bit more work on that.
Mm-hmm.
The X-Men look so cool with their colors. It really would help. Anyway, odd.
Very odd.
One of the other things that Byrne really brought to the table was every character looked really cool when they were doing stuff.
Right.
The way that Angel looks dumping these things into this dumpster, his flying doesn't look cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It almost looks like he's standing still.
Mm-hmm.
just it's an underview, but his feet make him look like he's not flying. Storm's pose isn't that cool. Wolverine slashing looks relaxed almost.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. Like anytime we see, I mean, yeah, that relax is a good way to put it. Yeah, disinterested. I don't know, something.
Yeah. And we
get this whole. There's so many things here that are so odd.
Go ahead, tell me what you think.
Well, least of all that, trashing the mansion, it costs some money to make some repairs, and Angel just says, "Hey, if you need money, no problem." And it's like, "Thank you, Sugar Daddy Warren." Like Professor X is like 100%. That's why I kept you here on this team.
Right.
I can count on you and your bank account. Like it's a weird. It's a weird way to. Well, the house and the mansion and the danger room and the Blackbird are all trash, but luckily, one of my former students who currently is on the team is a millionaire. I don't think he's a billionaire at this point. He's a millionaire. It's a weird thing. It's just a strange way to solve that problem.
Oh, my first thought about it creatively is like, this is a way that you create tension between characters. So as this happens, Warren then moves on and says to himself the same thing you said. Is the only reason I'm here because Professor X needs financial backing? Because I get that that's valuable, but should I be risking my life? Do I need to be putting on this costume if all he needs me for is my money? What is my worth to this team?
Andy Southern was right. He only wants my money.
Right. So just putting that seed of doubt into him put a little strain in their relationship, and it just again infinitely adds to the character development opportunities moving forward. Again, Angel's pose is weird. Both of his flying poses don't look great to me. Not interesting.
No. And then you have these bottom three panels attempt at humor.
Yeah, Wolverine being silly doesn't work.
Yeah. Like, you're right, trying to be silly. In 4 or 5 centuries. Hey!
So, again, they're probably working Marvel method where they talk for... I don't even know in this case because it's just one issue. Does Anderson get time with Claremont before Claremont scripts it? I really don't know. I'd like to imagine that they're working Marvel method, that he sends them a quick plot and then Anderson draws it and then he sees these things and fills in the words that kind of go along with it. I don't know, though. That would be typically how things work.
It's a strange thing. It
is. And I'm glad that they connect this to last issue because, as we mentioned before, Kitty has an adventure or a misadventure in the mansion where a demon destroys a good portion of it while trying to hunt her down. And she succeeds in killing the demon, we hope. But in the process really destroys a lot of the mansion. So it's kind of neat that there is fallout the next time we get to read again. So I like that, though.
Yeah, we've actually seen that a couple of times too, is the repair of the danger room. It is something that they are constantly both practicing in and destroying and then fixing.
Right.
So that's interesting. Yeah, but it's weird too because she's just gone through this whole ordeal, which, kind of trial by fire, I suppose, really debut of being a hero in that sense. And then, they're kind of having some fun at her expense. And suddenly she's just, I got to leave. I got to go right now. Like, even look at Storm's body language in that middle panel. Oh, poor Kitty. Yeah. It's such a strange reversal of she was like their strongest member and saved the day. And then this, I know she's still 13, but anyway.
And even the top panel with her, like her body language is she's thinking to herself that she wishes Nightcrawler could stop smelling so bad.
Yeah.
She isn't the powerful, statuesque leader that we've seen Claremont and Byrne turn her into. Here, David says, Anderson is a fantastic artist, but I guess he doesn't care about superheroes. You lose a sense of him in the superhero portions of the story. Looks like he's failing at emulation. That's interesting. Yeah, I have to admit, I don't know where else I've read comics that he's drawn, and I'm sure there are some great books out there. I don't doubt it. I mean, the guy is skilled. It's just such a strange contrast coming from Byrne and from Cockrum into his work and trying to see it. It's like a cover band, you know, hearing a cover band or when another actor takes on a role,
like John Bovey.
John Bovey,
like a John Bovey reverse cover band.
I love that bit, by the way.
It's a great bit.
I every time. Yes, I'm a big fan. Every time Will Forte makes his stupid face, I love it. I love Will Forte's stupid face.
That stupid face.
And by that I mean I'm not saying his face is stupid. I'm saying he makes a stupid face, and it is great. It is his smile where he is like a puppy with his head out the window of a moving car, just so happy to be there and see the lights. He's great. Anyway, so it is just sort of strange seeing someone else handle these characters and the tropes that we're used to in a way that doesn't flow or just doesn't read the same. But obviously the guy's incredibly skilled. That's not up for debate in terms of my point of view. And funny seeing Nightcrawler wearing a parka. Yeah. Anyway.
So strange.
So they're worried about hurting her feelings with their teasing, and she seems, she's going to shake it off.
Yeah.
Go for a little walk. And we're back to
Scott.
Florida. Yeah.
At the shanty.
He looks goofy in that hat.
Yeah, he does, eh? He looks like someone dressing up as the role of a dock worker in his high school play of On the Waterfront or something like that, right? Right? Like, you got to wear this hat. Make you look like a real dock worker.
Right.
Or fisher, I don't know. Fisherman, I don't know. And then there's this other weird scene, this whole page, this is his warm up, and I guess it's to demonstrate his power set, I guess. But
right,
he then plays trick pool, Cool Hand Luke style, and should be taking these guys' money. Right.
So yeah, he uses his eye beams to. We've seen before that, like with his powers, he has an amazing sense of angles and deflections. Yeah. David says Cyclops could have been a contender instead of a bum, which is what he am.
Which is what I am. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, and for anyone young who happens to ever see this video, in the bottom right-hand corner of page 10, that is something called a payphone. And you could insert coins, which were a form of currency, into legal tender. That you could insert the coins into the phone and then dial a number, and you could speak to somebody on their phone that could not take pictures or TikTok.
I don't want to know about that life anymore. It's just too. But anyway, yeah. So then he, Lee's like, I need to go home, but will you come with me? He says, of course. So they go to the ancestral homeland using one of those amazing airboats that you see.
Those things are so loud. They are so loud.
Have you been on one?
Yes.
It's really loud, eh?
In my favorite childhood swamp.
Nice. As you and Burt Reynolds went through the swamp together, looking for gators.
We don't talk about it, but yes.
Don't you mention his name on this show.
Yes, this is her ancestral home. And her dad worked like a dog, gave mom and me a good life.
So ancestral also suggests, so it's the wrong term, right? Ancestral is I know what Claremont's trying to do here, but ancestral is like, it's my family home for generations. But dad worked like a dog to give mom and me the good life, assuming that he bought this home.
Right. So none of her ancestors lived there.
None of her ancestors were there. The ancestral home.
It's an odd, you're right, very odd choice.
Yeah.
So for those who haven't been paying attention, her dad is dead.
Her dad's dead.
So for her to walk in, I like that they walk into a dark house. Like that is good. I just wish
It's a
they had
good horror bit. Yeah.
like maybe laid this out a little differently as a page, like so we have a bit more time in the dark before the lights go on. So that you just like let's commit to the fact this is going to be scary.
Yeah.
And then Dad reveals himself, and right away,
I love that's the intro line. How's by you, Pop? Well, Pop killed himself this morning, and I helped him do it. That's what? No,
and he slaps her over the banister.
Yeah.
And Cyclops finally, thank goodness, loses the hat. Now we have a comic.
Now we got a comic. Let's go, Psych.
Yeah, he catches her, and this is going to go somewhere.
It's going to go somewhere. But where? Ooh.
And right away we have this transition that I don't know how we make the jump from the last panel to this panel.
Yeah.
It feels like now we're in a different comic book for a moment.
Oh, for sure. And we're in this like weird dimension now.
Yes, reality warps inside out. And Despair's his spells transforms the Forrester home into a mile-high obsidian tower. So show us the transformation. Like we need to, like that needs to be part of it, is to see the landscape shift.
Right.
From like the left side is what is the mansion as we know it, and then as the panel moves to the right side, we see it's shifting. It's morphing.
I'm super surprised that Cyclops, and there's been numbers. I mean, I know it's the purpose of the story because it's like, who are you? What do you want with us? And then you get to explain it. But there have been multiple times where we're just like, just take the shot, Psych. Just take the shot.
Right.
Just blow this guy through the wall.
I can't believe I'm finding a spelling error again.
Oh, so there you go.
On bottom of the page, I guess it's the second panel, the one that has the tower.
Mm-hmm.
His name is spelled Despair.
Despairs. It's the American. Yeah. It's the American Despair.
Right. The R should come before the
Canadian spelling.
A little odd. Quick art note: those clouds, by the way, that's like the grease pencil.
Yes.
That's being used to smudge that or to make those marks, which is always cool to see. Works really well. Now, children, the fun begins. And this would have been a fun one just to let you go ahead and read all Despair's parts and just go to town on it. I wonder if you would have chosen an accent or not.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Well, I thought
good. It's fantastic.
Yeah, how do you have a silly voice like that? Being a demon and all.
When Despair puts on his light show and we see like Scott covering up to block the light, that is an awesomely drawn panel, or a picture at least of Scott and of Lee. Like the lines and how that looks like it's really him being hit by a bunch of light. If you see it in its raw form, like in the way it is in the Essentials,
in the book, yeah,
it's just a nice, really subtle use of brush strokes that when you put them together, it reads perfectly. But it really, really well done. And then no holding line to the outside, so there isn't an outline around the character when the light hits him. Just really, really well done. And I noticed that Anderson likes this narrative trick of like cutting the bottom of the panel off into another piece and then there's like more
some dialogue,
word captions. Yeah. This happens a few times where we have like the bottom fifth of something of a panel just has these breaks. Like I don't.
Yeah, we haven't encountered it before.
I'm not sure what it really means. I don't know how to interpret it, or I don't know how I would use that in storytelling. But anyway, now we get something really important. Yeah. This is probably the biggest takeaway from the issue, which is Cyclops is now having that internal journey that I mentioned at the beginning, where he's being forced to relive parts of his life that are meaningful and traumatic. And if he is the hero that we hope he is, he's going to come out of this stronger. But he's reliving now the moment where he's separated from his parents, where he believes his parents are killed. Right? He and Alex, his kids, are flying. His parents are in the plane. His dad's flying the plane, and it is struck. What is it struck by?
Cosmic.
Well, what does it say?
It doesn't. But I gotta say, does that plane mean anything to you? By the way, the de Havilland mosquito.
No.
So de Havilland. So this it caught me right away. De Havilland is a Canadian aircraft company, famously known having their during the Second World War, designing and building a number of aircraft, including the de Havilland Mosquito, which is a light bomber. So they would go on these bombing runs, and they were like lightweight. So they were made, I think, of whatever. Literally, that's the tag of mosquito because it's meant to be light in the air.
Right.
And like
plywood and canvas.
Yeah, like balsa wood. Yeah, exactly. Right. Right. That's kind of what they were made of. And they were made a lot. There's over 1,000 of them. And the primary aircraft facility was at Downsview Park in Toronto.
Oh, you're kidding.
And and big, like massive. Like this is de Havilland, within a decade, the Avro Aero comes out in Canadian, jet fighter technology, but de Havilland really does lay the groundwork and sets up the infrastructure for something like that to exist. Avro to take it on. But that's why I thought it was really interesting because I'm like, oh, the de Havilland Mosquito, it's like a very Canadian designed fighter bomber plane.
Right.
Anyway, which is interesting because it says his father is U.S. Air Force.
Yes.
So I mean, they were in production for other air forces, but it's a very specific thing.
It is, and it makes you wonder why would they have chosen that?
I don't know. Unless Claremont maybe Claremont was a World War II fighter pilot.
Right. So he's of British origin, and I wonder if that informs his, the way in which he understands the war and looks at the war.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
When we get him on the show, we should ask him about that and see if you remember. Yeah, that is a very specific reference. Yeah. So the plane is struck, and it's retconned. Or no, I think at this point, of course, the Starjammers already exist. So there's some kind of connection between him getting, beamed up and all that kind of stuff. And he goes on to become a slave on another world. And
Corsair does.
Corsair, yeah.
His father,
Major Christopher Summers. And eventually will reunite with Scott earlier in the series. And we see despair. I guess all that smoke is,
it's like reaching into his memories.
Well, there also is fire, but I think that part of the smoke, I'm reading it as like that's also him being there. Like despair is part of this experience.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you can read it however you want. But the thing about them jumping out, this is the first time ever that there's visual reference to Scott and Alex jumping out of an airplane.
Right.
Survive. And this is like, in my time of reading X-Men comics, this is like formative for a few reasons. One, of course, it makes them orphans, as far as they know, but it also, the landing, because it's on fire, the parachute, that is, Scott hits his head. And this, of course, affects his memory and his ability to control his powers.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he thinks he awakens after the fall, he's seen wearing, I looked it up, by the way, I believe it's Don Heck, the penciler in the 60s, who designed the terrible X-Men costumes that...
Oh, sure, on the next page, yeah.
We see them, like obviously the one by, the one that Angel is wearing is the most egregious.
Oh, the worst.
I wouldn't blame the penciler for the colorist's choice, but once they were put to paper, they should have all known better. That was too ugly to exist.
Although I kind of like seeing Iceman melted.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of neat.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
And again, if they ever made a Marvel Legend of that Naked Iceman, of that version of Angel, I would absolutely get it just because it's so ugly and so funny. So Cyclops is wearing his old visor, which he notes, in his old costume.
Mm-hmm.
The tighter kind of tighter cuffs on the boots. The X is like a perspective X on the buckle.
Yes.
And he's remembering an experience where him and the rest of the team were fighting the Sentinels, and then here in his memory, the Sentinels arrive and they are the X-Men, the new X-Men. And he and his brother have to battle the new X-Men as Sentinels.
But the bodies, the way they're shaped, like the way Havoc is bent over in that last bottom panel, and even the body proportions of Sentinels, I guess it's meant to be a dream or whatever. So it's a bit, certainly, they're kind of all over the place. Like, Wolverine's top heavy, and even the way that Cyclops is bent over when he says Sentinels, like it's just like an awkward pose.
I'm thinking about drawing process and I draw a lot.
Sure.
And I have the luxury of a flexible schedule where when I do start to like flesh out a character, when I feel like when I take a step back and it looks awkward, I start again.
Mm-hmm.
I move the legs. I change the twist in the body. I'll rework it. I feel like a lot of times these guys who are on this monthly grind, sometimes it's like a 3-week grind or a 20-day grind. And I think sometimes they draw these character poses and they just don't have the chance to start again. They're like, I'm going to finish the anatomy. It's going to look wonky. We're going to ink it anyway. And we're going to move forward. And just, we're not stopping, even though it's not great. But maybe I'm just projecting. For me, anytime that Kirby is weird, I think it's that too, is that he's just getting work done incredibly fast. So that it just, a face is weird, an angle of a body's weird. We're just going to keep going. Hello there. Kevin, how was Florida? I hope you had a great time. And welcome back. True story. Kevin posted a picture of him and his wife in front of the Jebediah Springfield statue at Universal Studios, and I was tickled. That was awesome. I love this, by the way. This top panel where it looks like Cyclops is whipping his optic blast. Like if he curves the bullet, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Remind me the name of that movie.
The Matrix.
No. Sorry. The one with James McAvoy and Angelina Jolie.
Oh, Wanted.
Wanted. Thank you. Where when they shoot, they kind of like flick their wrist with the gun and it curves the bullet around things.
Yes.
I just love the idea that Cyclops can like whip his optic blast.
That would be a cool twist on his power set.
Yeah, that there's some kind of like that the plasma that he shoots out is it. I don't like it holds form a little bit, and so when you kind of wiggle, it whips. I'm into that.
Yeah.
And then weird angle in this Nightcrawler robot.
Super weird.
Yeah.
And then everyone's dead.
Right. It's like a nightmare, right? Everyone's
it's
dying.
a nightmare scenario. And I gotta say though, and at the top of page 19, that's a creepy dead Havoc. That looks great.
Yeah. That all works.
Yeah.
I don't love anyone else's Wolverine like any.
Yeah, you don't see. You can't see close enough to their faces. They get the close up on Havoc,
but they really read well, and the Havoc one is perfect.
Yeah. And then he's suddenly back on top of the mountain where he made love to Jean Grey for an entire week. If you remember that.
Just note again that bottom left panel on page 19, the one that's that light green yellow.
Yes.
Really good looking, by the way.
Yes.
But there's that transition, that like slicing the bottom of the panel, into these thin slices as he transitions to another scene. Yeah, very weird, but yeah.
Ooh.
What?
Did you check out what was just blocked? Oh, it come up again.
Oh, I got it, buddy. Don't worry, I'm on it.
Oh, well, I'm just saying. Yeah, it's getting saucy in the chat.
Yeah, if we're lucky. An error occurred. What are you doing? It's telling me I'm having a page error. I have to refresh the page. If I refresh this page, what happens?
I don't know.
Okay, we're gonna try.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay. Fingers crossed, people.
It says that my changes might not be saved. Let's just see what happens. Okay, hold on.
What are you doing? Gotta bring you back in. There I am.
Oh, buddy, it was worth it. Ooh,
Was
look
it?
at this. I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway, I don't know why people. I don't know why some things have joined us that we weren't quite prepared for. Sexchat69.site, but they did join the X-Men chat.
There you go. I got them blocked for 5 minutes. I wasn't able to. Anyway, move on. So yeah, he's back on top of the mountain where, as you said, where he made love to Jean Grey just before, right, just before the climax of the Dark Phoenix saga.
Oh, nice.
And he sees Jean there, so he's having a moment.
Yeah, which
is great.
Yep. And then he did propose up on the after he saved her, or they saved Jean. So
right.
That's a reference back to that as well before they get beamed up to. Defend. After after Professor X is able to walk in the Phoenix.
Yes.
He proposes
the blue area of the moon,
something like that. Yeah.
And then you get this really weird Cyclops wearing his white tuxedo jacket, and then Jean in some kind of dress costume hybrid.
Yeah.
Odd stuff, like visually odd stuff. But again, we're going through the darkest parts of his psyche.
Yes.
As despair is having his way with him. I mean, you don't think about Cyclops as being a character that can withstand like magic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But
seems very much out of his league.
Yes. Well, let's see what happens.
Okay. Well, what happens?
Professor X as the minister.
Yeah.
So weird.
And then he blasts Jean to pieces. Sorry, the word is a bloody pulp.
Yes.
Jeez. This is just so bizarre. So this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. We were saying how, this is a kind of a side issue. And but there's been a few of these, and they're all Cyclops related because he's not with the team. So they use it when that whole issue when Cyclops has a whole X-Men basically summary at Jean's funeral. There's a few of these where it's just the life of Cyclops or the mind of Cyclops.
His mask is so weird that it's like a mask underneath with the eyepieces, like the eye hole.
I guess, yeah, it's almost like Beast's mask.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very weird.
But yeah.
By the way, I think his close-ups are great. By the way, like every time we get a close-up of a face or a hand, he's really good. And then Rubenstein brings out good sides of him. So he blasts Jean and then get that treatment again with those panels.
Yeah, there it is again.
These little sections. So now we're kind of blasted back into reality.
Yeah, he's gone through his worst, I guess, which is eventually killing Jean.
As her corpse disappears, the church disappears, and his sobs are answered by laughter.
Oh!
So he's playing with his mind. He's like, I've enjoyed playing with your mind, Scott Summers. Now I shall destroy it with the irresistible power of despair.
There. No!
And he packs a lot of panels onto a page. I mean, this page,
yeah,
we're already, we're at 9, I think, on this page. And I mean, that's a lot. Like if you think about 6 as being some kind of average, I'm saying that loosely, but he does pack a lot, which is one of the reasons that he is flexible with how much gutter he uses or doesn't use.
Mm-hmm.
So again, those top panels read clear because they're designed really well. You cannot mistake one as being connected to the other, especially with the one with Despair's leg and cloak in the foreground, and then like that color of things with the magenta and then the red Cyclops or Daredevil going through the window.
Absolutely.
Like you can't mistake these as being connected.
But unlike Daredevil, he lands on the ground.
True. So I think it's a really good use of this technique. It works really well. And he lands and he's back wearing his regular outfit. And out of the swamp comes man thing.
The thing.
Yes. And he doesn't know what to make of man thing. But there's a stench. He goes, That's sloshing sound. That's the stench. These are the things I say to myself every time I get out of bed.
Yeah, exactly.
I climb out of bed, I'm like, the sloshing sound. The stench.
It's back.
Good Lord.
That's when you know of a plumbing issue.
Yep. Another weird back shot, like looking at Man Thing from the back and the shoulders. Odd.
Yeah. Super odd.
I want to say Despair looks, by the way, like a really budget 70s version of Spawn.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
It's like if a lesser
McFarlane
yeah,
inspired by.
So how does he not? So the monster's coming at him. He says, "A monster! I'll destroy it with my optic blast. Stop it! What's the matter with me?" Next panel, the monster's walking past him, and he says, "Am I so panicked that I've forgotten my training? I never unleash my eye-beams against any less than a definite foe. A definite attack. This creature isn't after me. It's headed for Despair's temple. But is it after the demon or Lee?" So he changes into Cyclops because he has his costume there.
Sure.
In his luggage.
In his bag, yeah.
Which was, I guess, on the boat.
Yes.
And then he needs absolute control over his optic blasts. And the visor affords him that. So he hears Lee scream, and he and Man-Thing together.
Team up. The team up you never saw coming.
That's right. And they charge in, and right away the beast is inflamed by his own, I guess, his own fear.
Again.
Or a tiny part of Man-Thing is still human enough to know fear, and whatever knows fear burns at the Man-Thing's touch. Thus does Despair. There's more and more. Okay, so he tries to get Cyclops in agony, blah, blah, blah. The monster's burning. Urinating and burning.
Yeah.
And then, really neat, he's all, like, when Cyclops is using his blast against Despair, here he's rendered all yellow.
Yeah.
In the inking art, it's all done just in proper ink. So they would have taken these inks and made a copy of them in a way that, like, make a surprint so that they're in like color hold stuff, so that they're in red as opposed to stop touching yourself, Man-Thing. I also say that to myself every morning when I get up. Yeah, Cyclops is just trying to use his optic blast to fight a demon.
Yeah. It's not going so great. And so he just tackles him, which I actually like that move.
Sure. Nothing's working, so just boom. That's a good pose, too.
I like that. I was gonna say, that's a great rugby tackle.
Yeah, it reads really well.
Yeah, it does.
Nice and clear.
Got you, mister. And I guess
I do like this one. That you cannot hold me, human, or defeat me. It reads like that Despair does not want to be touched by Scott. Let me hug you.
Let me. We're hugging this out, bro, you and me.
Yeah. And then he's just like zapping him in the head.
Yeah. Zapping him, zap. There's
I will say, to Anderson's credit, again, like, man, he does know his back anatomy. That is not easy to fake. And he's doing a great job. That's really good back muscles. Really, really good, really good. So Man-Thing intervenes, gets a hand on Despair, and that's not going to go well for Despair.
And it looks like what does he say? Man-Thing, I sense no fear in him, only a reflection of the courage and strength emanated from Cyclops. My powers no longer affect him. So now Despair's in it. Because Man-Thing has tapped into the opposite of what Despair had tapped into. He tapped into the courage and strength of Cyclops. and now it's impacting the demon.
Right. And we get a great panel of Cyclops, and it's slightly askew, running, blasting while carrying a body. Hey, David, can you remind me in the E for Extinction, maybe not that first trade, but during the Frank Quietly issues that Morrison wrote, isn't there one like splash page where Cyclops is running and blasting while carrying someone out of a Shi'ar ship? And it's a really cool looking splash. It just reminds me a little bit of this panel, if I'm remembering that correctly. Anyway, out of the ancestral home, back to the airboat, or whatever it was called. And they made it.
Safe.
Not easy to draw small, by the way.
No.
But it looks really good. And the whole thing is burning down. Cyclops assumes that Man-Thing is dead.
Yep.
And your copy too. So read in Cyclops thought balloons in the first panel, like 1 balloon, 2 balloon, 3 balloon, the 4th balloon. Read me that first line.
Yielding to you, Despay.
Yeah,
actually, sorry. Yielding to you, Despay.
They don't do the whole word.
The ultimate denial and betrayal of that love. Yeah.
Like they whited it out, maybe, or just forgot to type in the rest of it, or write in the rest of his name.
Maybe.
Odd.
Maybe.
So Scott changes back into his regular clothes.
Yeah.
Goes in the airboat.
Yeah. Takes Lee to a hospital.
I wonder, it feels like that white narration block was added in late.
Right.
Just because it's just all exposition. Just stuff that like explains things that a kid would ask. Wait, when did he get back into his regular clothes? Like, is
Lee okay? Yeah.
Yeah. Where is she going to end up? Like, no, county hospital. Don't worry. He checked in to make sure she was going to be fine. And then Man-Thing survived the whole experience,
but so did Spirit.
And so
because they are a yin and a yang. They are a balance. They are a force and a counterforce.
That is very sad.
Yeah.
It's a sad life for Ted.
Sad life for Ted. Well, I mean, we're excited to see. I mean, we want to see more Ted now in the MCU. We get little bits of Ted, more Ted.
So, can you do me the favor, if you're able to, of reading Chris Claremont's statement at the beginning of this X-Mail?
Sure, I can try. Hold on.
Okay, thank you. I think maybe it'll provide some insight.
In the better late than never department, a couple of these announcements, a couple of 3 announcements. To begin, a belated celebration of my 50th anniversary on this crazy book, which just happens to coincide with the 50th issue of the new X-Men to see print. Trouble is, it was the last issue. Ah, well, hooray, hooray. Here's hoping we're all around for 50 more. Moving right along, we also received word of the results of this year's Eagle Awards, bestowed by the fans of Great Britain on their favorite books, characters, stories, creators, etc. They were kind enough to honor X-Men with a multitude of awards. To all of them, and especially to Richard Burton and Mike Conroy, who organized and run the awards, heartfelt thank you. And finally, some words about the art team on this issue. Brent Anderson penciled it. Few of you may know the name as yet. He's had few published works. Well, that's about to change. With a vengeance. His primary job is as penciler on the new Khazar series. Khazar. And as this X-Men story show, he's an artistic power to be reckoned with. He'll also be penciling Lord and Wheezy Jones Willing, the 1981 X-Men Annual. As for the inker, Joseph Rubenstein, X-Men is now his regular assignment. He has one tough act to follow in Terry Austin, but in truth, none of us working on the book can think of anyone more capable of filling Terry's shoes. Joseph's style is different, but no less spectacular. Here's hoping he sticks around for quite a while. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't it?
It is. Let's get you back in there, man. Oh. All right. David says, after consulting his books, he says he's not zapping in the splash. He's carrying the Landra. Zorn is behind him with Nova/X. Because you got to read the room. We don't want to spoil what's happening.
Gotcha.
All right. I thought maybe it was zapping.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Something here. The famous X-Men graphic novel, which I've never read, and I only recently acquired, which is a lot of people's favorite X-Men story of all time. God Loves, Man Kills.
Yes, you told me about that.
Yes, it is X-Men graphic novel, Marvel graphic novel number 5, because the Marvel graphic novel is the series, and it just happens to be an X-Men one.
It's Chris Claremont. And
Chris Claremont. Remember, Chris Claremont is going to basically be the custodian of everything X-Men moving forward now. So every spinoff he's going to write. He's going to write the Wolverine Limited series next year. As if we're in this moment in time. He's going to write the graphic novel, New Mutants, and so on and so on and so on. But this one is Brent Eric Anderson on art. The cover is great, and the inside is better paper. Oh, the dancing teacher.
She's back.
Oh, dude. I got to figure out when this falls in continuity. If you look at the team,
yeah,
the only thing that's odd would be Kitty's costume. We haven't seen yet. But other than that, it's like really close if we get Cyclops back in there. So I'll figure out when this falls. The artwork says it's 82, so it's a year later. But we'll maybe find a way to cover this. The paper and the art look really good. There's some good photo reference stuff in here. But this is the basis for, or part of the inspiration for X2.
Oh.
As there is a character who kind of hates the mutants and is trying to get rid of them. And his name is Stryker. Ooh. So there's some cool stuff. But Anderson's on this.
Sucks.
And his style is really different in this one. I think he's probably a year better and a year more confident. And it's not inked by Rubenstein. Okay. So things look real different. Neat. We'll get into that eventually.
Yes.
Any final sort of thoughts about this issue? Just
no, I think again, knowing what we know about the conclusion of the previous run and creative team, and the impact it has on the, they're doing it. We're back in 1981. They don't know what the legacy of these stories are. So it feels very much like what's next. We're not quite sure. I haven't mapped out what it is, but I have some ideas. So here's a story. That's it. Just seems like a standalone issue. It's not. It's got a little bit of connection to previous issues. They do mine the Cyclops narration territory, like really having a Cyclops being that conduit for whatever. Summarizing things. There he is. Look at them.
I know. So good.
So good.
So I wonder if this does add to like his emotional stakes moving forward. Yeah. If we're gonna know the man any better, is this gonna bring him back to the X-Men?
Right.
Has he gone on some kind of journey that is meaningful that makes him realize he needs to be with his family? I wonder if it's going to play a role or if it's nothing. Mm-hmm. And we know next issue with 145, X-Men co-creator in a really meaningful way, Dave Cockrum returns to the series for his second run. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's bringing any new tricks, if we're seeing a lesser or a greater version of Mr. Cockrum, who is credited as co-creator of Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Thunderbird, and it made a huge impact on Wolverine, obviously in his progress, and Sunfire, Banshee, kind of bringing them to a more modern version. Mm-hmm. Very cool to see he's coming back. And like I mentioned, Dr. Doom is on the cover. So I wonder what's going on there.
Yeah.
Who knows, sir? I wonder if this is the classic version. I don't know how I got this. I don't know where this came from.
This guy right here. Thank you, Dragon Guelph. There you go.
Yes.
They get a whole back issue room, and when it's open, it's full of treasures.
Shouts to Jen and Amy at the Dragon. I can open this right now just to see if it is that issue. I don't think I want to read it though in this form because the colors, it's not so bad. Kind of newsprinty.
Okay.
But there you go. We'll get to it. We'll get to that next week. Ooh, what's going on? I'm already totally engrossed. That'll be next week in X-Men. That being said, what do we got to tell the people? We got to go to group7comics.ca, which is our website. You can buy all of our books there. You can find us on all the socials at Group7Comics. And then, of course, the 7 is the number 7. And when you go to any of those things, you can usually find our books like the latest issue, Peregrines. This is Group of 7 Comics issue 8, second part of the Peregrines quartet, quadrilogy. There's the first part in issue 7. We got our 2 standalone issues, Peregrines the Obstacle Course, Peregrines Londinium, and Tried and True, the trade paperback of the first 6 issues, A Most Secret Tale.
Super cool. It's always super cool. And hey, we're going to be in Whitby, Ontario, a couple of weeks, November 19th, Saturday, for WITCAF, Whitby Comic Arts Festival, at their public library main branch. So, hey, if you are in the Durham region, Whitby, Ontario, come check us out. We love to say hi. Also, shout out new subscriber, Harold Chester. Appreciate the support, Harold. Hope you enjoy Hope you enjoy the content.
For sure. Me too. I hope you do.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
That's it, buddy.
All right.
We're in a whole new era. Year 2 started tonight.
I can't believe it. I'm going to go find my family and say hello. See how my son enjoyed some hockey.
I mean, you could do that, I suppose.
And then I'm going to get back to drawing some Batman.
Sweet.
Other than that, I'll chat with you soon. We'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk hockey in a minute.
I'm sure we'll talk hockey in a minute. A hot minute.
All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging with us. Hope you have a great week. And if you find any new old X-Men comics that are great, you got to scoop those up because we are on the hunt.
And I don't know if anyone in this chat is still around, but sexchat69.site I don't think is legit. So just be warned.
Thanks, Chris. All right. Take care. Have a good night.
See you. Good night, everyone.